Австралийн Welcome.
Сайн байцгаана уу хүнд үзэгчдээ. Өнөөдөр орой манай де факто нэвтрүүлгийн зочноор орчин үеийн урлагийн судлаач, багш, үзэсгэлэн гаргадаг ноён доктор Rolf Lauter оролцож байна.
Лаутер 1963 оноос Мэннхеймийн Маргарэт Лаутерийн галлерэйд туслах куратороор ажиллаж эхлэн 1952-оос 1971 онуудад ахлах куратороор ажилласан. 1972-оос 1984 онуудад Хейдэлбэрг болон Готтингений их сургуулиудад урлагийн түүх, археологи, Христийн археологи, роман хэл болон философийн ухаан судалж суралцсан. Тэрээр Франкфуртын орчин үеийн урлагийн музейн куратор, ахлах куратор, орлогч захирал, Кунсталле Мэннхеймийн захирал, Мэннхейм хотын уран зургийн соёлын төлөөлөгч, Карлсруэ хотын Швейцарын урлагийн институтын куратор болон захирлаар ажиллаж байсан. 2007 оноос одоо хүртэл К&К Стифтунг Үзэсгэлэнгийн Гүйцэтгэх захирал, 2013 оноос Мэннхеймийн Урлагийн галлерейн захирлаар ажиллаж байна.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So tell us what brought you to Mongolia.
It's very easy. I met 2 years ago a beautiful artist, Otgombaya Ershu, in Berlin. I was in his studio. I found his work fantastic. We started a relationship, many talks, dialogues, and then he told me a lot about the story of Mongolia, about the history, and we decided to go to Mongolia to do something, to learn and to do.
And you have been curator of Mannheim Museum of Contemporary Art many years ago. You have been, through your career, have been doing all the time dealing with contemporary art. What is the principal difference of contemporary art with classical arts?
Let's say the main difference is the language. In classical or traditional art, historical art, we have, let's say, more or less a realistic or let's say content with real elements we can describe. In modern and contemporary art, we have abstract elements, we have symbols, we have many other parts that people believe are not easy to describe, but they are more or less the same. We can describe it by perception. A triangle is a triangle, a square is a square, and a Christ is a Christ, or other things. So the contradiction that was between classical and modern art is not anymore there, and contemporary artists today are using all elements from all the times, all the styles, and they are creating their own language. There is not anymore one style worldwide in the West or East, but more the individual style of an artist, and this is real contemporary art.
From when the contemporary art you consider to start with?
The last avant-gardes in 20th century have been pop art, minimal art, and perhaps 2-3 others, Nouveau Realisme. And in the 70s, 80s, there was a break together with the message of the Club of Rome, 72, that the world cannot continue like it is to exploit, but we have to rethink what we do, where we can go. And the artists restarted painting, restarted the art mission, and every artist went into his studio and recreated his position. And by doing that in the 80s, 90s, we have a totally new situation, a so-called chaos. It seems to be a chaos, but it is not. It's a new order of many, many individual positions. And there are some highlight artists worldwide, like Gerhard Richter, former Picasso, but Gerhard Richter in the 20th century, who started to paint in different styles in the same time, which means not one style for an artist, but more styles.
So as a result, since 90s, today after almost 20 or plus years, how do you see the impact of that modern art or contemporary art, which is also covering today? What is the impact on the way we live, on the way the young people think about the world?
I think there is, again, a change, a very strong transformation in the art world. We go into the direction of a globalism. And in that situation, the artists start to reflect about their identity, their own identity, private, their cultural identity, and what's going on when they travel, when they are living not anymore in their country, Mongolia, Germany, everywhere, but they are living in a different country. Are they still Mongolians, or are they already Mongolians and half Germans or something else? And by that, they change and transform their style, their personal language in a way that means more global. In a sense, they become a little bit more similar in some way, but they keep their own identity.
Okay, then the global world is not just simple sum of every country. There's altogether the difference of each country, yet as sum, which we call it global world. And how does it reflect in the way people live? City planning, settings that people communicate, the way they perceive other countries. Before it was National Geographic or traveling, etc. Now you bring the way the other people think. Please tell us.
It's very interesting what you say, because starting with a lot of travels, many artists travel today, many architects travel. By that, they are crossing the cultures. They are giving to other cultures part of their culture, but they are adopting in the same time elements of the other culture. Then they return to their country and they bring new, fresh elements to their culture, which means we are in a situation right now, globally, culturally, of a global mix, but many nations, many artists keep their own identity or want to keep it. But let's say the artists of the future, under my opinion, are not able to do that anymore. They don't need to keep their cultural identity. They win a lot, and by doing this, there will be, in 10, 20 years, there will be a totally new art language worldwide based on cultural identity and global identity. And the Mongolian artist will be a little bit Mongolian, but also a global artist.
Welcome. So this is the way how modern urbanization is being developed. Am I right?
In some way, but what I see in many countries is that they still keep, let's say, the technological impact and want to create very fast houses, areas, to bring people into these houses. But I miss in many countries the spaces for people to communicate, to play, to relax, to regain the energy they need for the next day, for the next...
From communicating with each other.
I think communication is a very strong part of avoiding, let's say, mistakes, avoiding social problems, and avoiding wars at the end.
Now, paradoxical thing in modern, in particular a country like emerging economy like this, we are becoming So income was different. And for some communication places like restaurants are just a daily need. For some it's cannot afford, and yet we have to have a dialogue. What's the way to solve this sort of within the nation separation?
I always try to have very easy answers. I think if people understand, the politicians, the people that decide in the countries, that from every country of the world we can use something beautiful, something positive, something important for humanity, and then we can, let's say, try to find out which elements from which country could be good for the world. The one has more agriculture, the other more technological elements, and the other, I don't know, philosophers perhaps. And if we understand our identity, our strength, then it could be a global world with, let's say, the energies of the different countries.
So it looks like this dialogue is not will only improve the city setting, and also it's global setting where we have more wars, conflicts. How do you see that being reflected by the contemporary art?
As far as I see the history of humanity and art, I see that every culture that supported artists in different ways was a very elevated nation. It starts with antiquity in Egypt, Greece, Rome. Everywhere we have high level of artworks. So my mission is to think about in which cultures do we need more support for the artists, for the art world, for the culture, to have, let's say, an educated basement for the people, and by having a higher level of education, we know it, and more culture, we know that people discuss about war, but they don't make war.
So in a contemporary world can help the young people to express themselves freely as they want.
Yeah, I think if we can give young generations, young people in every city of the world spaces, I mean spaces, real spaces, and spaces to think, to reflect, to discuss what they want without interaction of older generations, I think we win. We can learn from younger generations, and not only from ourselves. And this is what I believe would be the best to do in every culture, in every nation, in every city. And this is also my interest in urbanism. Whenever I look to a city, and I was responsible for the cultural development in the city of Frankfurt for 3 years, I understood that a city is more than the houses and the places. It is the interaction of people. It is the wealth of people, and everything they can do for their own gives democracy a stronger position. And that's why I believe by creating concepts for cities based on cultural elements. It can be an art center, it can be a lounge, it can be a discussion area, it can be a playground, it can be everything. But we need places, spaces for people, and the young people, they take it. They go in Berlin, in every room that is not filled with other things. They use public spaces, they use cafes, they use everything to have a dialogue, because they need it.
You know, in Mongolia, the most we talk about children playground, which still is taken by companies to make another buildings, and we, in fact, we are becoming now a place of jungle of houses, no gardens, no playgrounds even for children. In that circumstances, how we can introduce your concept of space for communication, which is art space. Please tell your opinion.
I think it's some kind of a mission of every architect in the world to understand that a city is, let's say, it's a harmony of spaces, filled spaces with human beings, and void spaces to create communication, to create life. Life is communication. And if we can talk to some people, city planners, Lord Mayors in different cities, I know it's possible, and tell them only the consequences we had in Frankfurt, in Berlin, in other cities. I know Germany the best, but if we can give examples that their country, their people will be more happy.
You have been challenging the politicians in these cities
Absolutely.
First, and now they were refusing, and now they are doing what you are suggesting, you were suggesting before.
In some way, it was always like that. I had a lot of enemies when I brought the first concepts, the ideas, fresh, perhaps not always perfect, into an audience. And then I went to the next job or next project, and step by step they are doing what my friends, my partners, and I proposed, which means the ideas are important to give impulses, to give some ideas, and people can follow or not, but those who follow will have the better world.
You have been creating so many such art spaces for people, for the cities. Can you tell me what was the most exciting project you have been doing in that regard?
I did in Frankfurt in 1990, a very challenging project with very, very well-known sculptures in the city. I had a lot of fight with people, with politicians. They said, this is nothing for our city. I kept it for 2 years. After that, they have been very unhappy when the works left. So it was a process for people. This was the first. I was very young. And the second was more challenging in Mannheim. I started to do the exhibition Art Scout 1, only with young artists from the region, from this area, 100 artists, works in 17 places, in industrial halls, in the city house, in many, many places. And people came, normal people, from all over the city. They came, had a look. They had never seen an artwork like this, new, fresh, other, different. And they have been happy to understand that they have interesting positions, good artists. I mean, the most important thing is to go into the cities, not to go into the museums, into the institutions. You cannot bring the mass of people into the museums. We know worldwide that this is a cultural tourism, going to the museums. Many people are going there, but not the mass. And I want to go into the streets to talk to people, to give them the possibility to see the other, the different, and the new art. And this was, in Mannheim, was a real interesting impression.
In that sense, the concept of the Bilbao in Spain comes to my mind. Is it, how do you see that project?
Positive and negative. Positive, it's a great architecture, and a lot of people are traveling to Bilbao because of the Frank Gehry building and the collection perhaps, but it's not the city. The city is still almost the same, more tourists,
good point,
but for the people that are living there, I don't think they are all happy.
I see.
It's like a toy fallen on the earth, and people enjoy or don't enjoy. It depends on their position, but I like more sustainable direction. Giving
so that comes with the people, not out
right.
of them. Yes.
The better world comes only when people are convinced to get a different world, and not if we tell them from the politics, from everywhere, it must be like that because let them have their own impression, their own perception. Bring them artworks, artists in the cities, in the streets, in houses, in buildings, in private houses as well. And they get a feeling of something they never saw before, and they are not against, they are for it.
From your conversation, I'm taking the point is that younger generation, particularly younger artists, always smarter first, because they bring new ideas. Let them freedom to express, let them give them a space to express, then things will be a bit better.
It's the right idea. They only need space. They don't need much money. They need spaces to express, to think, to reflect, to discuss with others what they are doing. I know it because I know a lot of academies, studios. I was here in Mongolia in many studios. And this is the best way to give people the chance to tell truth. Artists are the last people in this world that tell the truth, because they do what they want. They must not do something for others.
In that context, can they say architecture or construction company which is making new district, which is very fashionable now in this town, they could invite young artists, give them a space.
Beautiful idea for half a year, for a year, for 2 years, not for long. They like to be nomads.
Okay.
They go from one place to the other. It's more interesting. Yeah.
In that context, how do you find Mongolian artists, contemporary artists work? What are common things, and what are you think still they can improve?
2 years ago, I had a very simple impression. I thought Mongolian art is always traditional, in a sense, good painting, but not a progression. I was here, then I looked into many catalogs. I saw some interesting positions, and then I came here. I saw some young artists. I was in a gallery. I was talking to many people, and I see, let's say, the impact, the interest to go on. Perhaps not every artist is able to do it now from Mongolia, but if you give them the chance to have dialogue partners in other countries, to send them as a residency in other countries, or to bring other artists, contemporary artists, to Mongolia, there is a lot of talent and possibilities. I saw very interesting people here.
So are you in that process of getting them traveling, understanding other world?
I have some projects, and I spoke with Otko, my great artist. He's really great in that too, as a dialogue partner. And we try to prepare a so-called art lab Mongolia. Laboratory for young artists to meet. Some exhibitions, not too much, not like a museum. Some talks, workshops. I can teach, I can talk, I can do a lot of things, and people come together. And when they talk, the artists from Germany or Switzerland or New York with a Mongolian artist, they get fresh impulses, and they go very fast to another future. So the art lab can be an idea.
Contemporary young artists, summer village type of conversation. There is a plan for Mongolia to come to Venice Biennale.
Yes.
What is that about? Why the Mongolians should go there, our artists?
It's a beautiful idea, a great idea, because Venice, since more than 150 years, has the biennial. Every 2 years, more or less, bring a lot of countries, artists from the countries, and cultural people from these countries worldwide to Venice to show their art, to discuss about art, and to meet. I told at the beginning, communication is important. The art world must communicate too, which position is interesting, which other not, where are we going in the art world. And the Biennial is the most challenging and the most beautiful exhibition to see global art.
Which part of Venice?
It's in, so the main part is in the Giardini, in the gardens, beautiful gardens with the pavilions of the countries.
Every country has one?
Every country has one. almost all countries. Then there are arsenale, which is huge industrial halls where other positions are shown, and there is a central hall, the Italian pavilion, where one curator is discussing themes, subjects of his time. So on different levels, a very high level discussion about contemporary art. And if Mongolia, and I'm sure they will do it this year for next year, if they do it, and MCASA, the Mongolian Contemporary Art Support Association, is preparing it with other partners from Germany, from the embassies, if they really do it, it will be the first and high representational positioning of Mongolia in the world. And it will reflect, on the one side, the identity of Mongolia and the culture, and it will open many, many doors to the world so that many partners will follow to Mongolia and they will start a multi-dialogue.
Welcome. The partners, you say, in that sense, can come to Mongolia probably because those exhibitions, for inspiration, maybe to buy those works.
Right.
And you talk about the high level, the people who are art investors, you mean?
Absolutely. I can tell you, I know some artists, and whenever I can, I buy, because I know that they are good, and the prices will go higher, for sure. If they are talented and good, it will be like that. And to show works from Mongolian artists in Venice, this will help, first of all, the artists perhaps to sell. They will sell, I'm sure. On the other side, it will start a process for Mongolia to, let's say, to open the support directions, foundations, other possibilities for Mongolian artists. They need support, and then one day they will be well known. They will be in the world, and the collectors will include.
That will be a good window, professional window for Mongolian contemporary artists to the world.
Absolutely.
It is the existing window for every country anyway.
If you show in the German pavilion positions, they are mostly known. In earlier times,
you will show your pavilion, your artists.
Not
in Germany, for example.
Not
Germany
me, but
pavilion.
Others, right? And they are always discussed, but they are not young artists. I would say for Mongolia, it would be perfect to show real young, talented artists. To show Mongolia is fresh, new, and gives the world a challenge.
And how can we have that high-level dialogue in Mongolian pavilion?
It is easy because you have beautiful people in MCASA, and they already have very good partners, supporters, and I try with my friends to have a dialogue and to support by my knowledge and my experience. And I think it can be, with a good marketing, good positioning, presentation, a real highlight for the biennial.
Okay, the last part of questions is about you. What made you loving so much art, and when you started and why?
It's also very easy. When I was 10, 11, my mother started an art gallery in the 60s. It was absolutely crazy for a young boy to see crazy things he couldn't understand in that time. I was every day there, and I saw all these things. I spoke to many artists. There have been performances, happenings, everything, a strange other world. Then I was going to school, studying art history, philosophy, many things, and I understood more and more of these elements. I made a lot of exhibitions in that time, and then at the end of my doctorate, I was asked to go to Frankfurt, and I found all my lifetime beautiful mentors, people that wanted me. I don't know why, perhaps because I was always searching the art and not the money. And by doing that and speaking to a lot of artists and then exposing highlights of artists in Frankfurt, Lucien Freud, Alighiero Boetti, Jeff Wall, and others, and in Mannheim, Eric Fischl, Cecily Brown, Yan Pei Ming, the Chinese. By doing this, people respected me, but I did it always different than others, because I was working with the artists, and we did always something special. And that's why I'm very happy to have had this way.
And now you live in Switzerland.
Now I live in Switzerland for business reasons. I'm in Berlin many times for creativity finding, art scout, and I'm traveling to countries not many people do right now, but I know they will be extremely powerful. Mongolia, Cuba, others, Azerbaijan. And I believe the world of the future will be not China, America, Europe. It will be different. There will be more individual positions, and I believe in Mongolia.
Where do you keep your collections?
It's in Switzerland, mostly.
Is it because collection is in your countries, in Europe, collections wealth is taxed, or is there any system? How does it work?
Let's say it depends from each country how many taxes the owners have to pay. Switzerland is still very good to buy art, I must say, but I heard Mongolia is great. It's the taxes are really low, so buy art. It's easy for now. And other countries do buy, and others are really good for that.
Out of many famous artists you have met many of them. Please name some of them. And who was the most impressive, long-lasting on
Interesting
your life?
question. Perhaps 100. If you look to some journals and you see the 100 best of the world, I know at least 20 or 30 of them. Bruce Nauman I met. I made a beautiful work in Frankfurt once. Alighiero Boetti, he died in '94, a great, beautiful artist. Eric Fischl, Lucien Freud, I was in his studio, not many people. I did a big exhibition, crazy artist, beautiful artist. And many, Cecily Brown, she's one of the best painters worldwide. So I had the luck to meet a lot of artists, and I learned from them. So every collector can learn a lot about the other reality of the art, and I hope I can give a message to some of these collectors worldwide who are not doing yet this or collecting to start. It's not a question of money, it's always a question of the will and the impact. And I love art, and that's why I'm here.
Well, thank you very much for coming to Mongolia and to my show. And of course, your contribution towards our first participation in Venice biennial is very much appreciated. And I wish you good luck. And I think many young people, our artists, will follow your wonderful website and your exhibitions you do all around. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.